Ladies, gentlemen, and everything in between, we are back with another banger. We've got matchmaking every UFC pay-per-view this year. I'm going to start off with UFC 301 because even though I haven't match made it, it's still yet to happen. So I'm just going to use the card that they've used. Same with any fights that have been confirmed, I will keep the same. But yeah, okay, right. So UFC 301, I haven't changed this at all. Pantoja vs Usyk, Martinez vs Aldo, Smith vs Petrino. Only thing that's really going to have consequences in this event is probably the main event. So for the sake of this video, I'm going to say that Pantoja wins and keeps the belt. Okay, moving on quickly. UFC 302 main event: Islam Makhachev vs Dustin Poirier. Co-main event: Sean Strickland vs Paulo Costa. Featured fight of the night: I've gone for Corey Sandhagen vs Umar Nurmagomedov. I think that would be a sick card. Obviously, some other fights on the card. You've got, Delidze versus Hernandez, Almeida versus Romanov as the card opener. But yeah, I think this would be a pretty good card. And obviously, most of the fights that are on this card have already been made. So yeah. Anyway, UFC 303 main event: Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler. Co-main event: this one's not for a belt this time. John Jones versus Stipe Miocic. Just have Jones vacate, and then it should make the next card a bit better. And then Colby Covington versus Ian Gary as the featured fight of the night. Some other fights on the card, I'm thinking. Well, we've already got Jamal Hill versus Khalil Rountree, but I would have that as the opener for the main card, and then have someone like Stephen Thompson. I think Stephen Thompson versus Sean Brady or Li Jingliang would be a good fight on this card. In terms of some of the winners, I've got to say for the last one, the only one that's going to have big sort of implications is Islam Makhachev. Let's say Islam beats Dustin on a decision. And then for this one, we've got, I think the only fight that has consequences for the rest of this video is Covington versus Gary. So I'm actually going to say Ian Gary wins on a split decision, but it's a bit of a robbery. That's my prediction. But yeah, okay, right. UFC 304. We've got the main event: Tom Aspinall versus Curtis Blades 2. This one's for the undisputed heavyweight championship. Then co-main event: Leon Edwards versus Bilal Muhammad 2. Obviously welterweight championship. And then featured fight of the night: Bobby Green versus Paddy Pimblett. Some other fights on the card. We've got Gilbert Burns versus Michael Venom Page. Arnold Allen versus Josh Emmett. And then, even though it would be on the prelims, which should hopefully show how stacked this card could be, because there are a lot of British fighters, but also Chaka Royval versus Makayev as the prelim headliner for a #1 title shot. But yeah, okay, predictions. I'm going to say Aspinall wins, Leon wins, and Paddy wins. I don't know. Well, I don't think he would, but I'm rooting for him too, because he's my British boy. Also on the card, I'm going to say Michael Venom Page wins. I think that's the only one with consequence. Oh, and Muhammad Makayev wins. Okay, right. UFC 305. We've got. I would have done this in South Africa, but they've chosen to do it in Australia. So I guess if it's a close fight, they can do a rematch. We've got Dricus du Plessis versus Israel Adesanya. Co-main event: Alexander Volkanovski versus Aljamain Sterling. So obviously this is a bit of a step down in competition in terms of the rankings for Volkanovski, but I think it's a CTE free matchup, and I can't see Volkanovski getting knocked out by Aljamain Sterling. But yeah, and then featured fight of the night, we've got Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Jack Della Maddalena. I think this will be a solid card. Some other fights I would expect to see, maybe a Kai Kara France versus Manel Kape. Taito Ivasa versus, Chris Barnett. That'd be a fun one. But yeah, okay, predictions. I really don't know for the main event, because I would have wanted Adesanya to win when it was originally booked, but he's just, at this point, I'm becoming less and less of a fan of his. So let's say, whatever it is, I would like it to be a close fight so they can rematch, and then they can have it in South Africa or Nigeria or Ethiopia or somewhere else in Africa. And then co-main event, got to be Volkanovski. I don't think anyone would want Aljo to win in this matchup. Everyone wants Volkanovski back in the title picture, with reason. I'm not saying chuck him in there, like, you know, after 2 knockout losses, but I think everyone wants Volkanovski to win again and to do well. And then for Rakhmonov versus Jack Della Maddalena, I'm going to go with Shavkat. I think he can do it. I think he's got more finishing ability than Jack Della, although Jack Della Maddalena has got a lot of power, so I'm not sure. We'll also go, I don't know, Capé beats Kai Kara France, and I like Chris Barnett, so we'll say Chris Barnett beats Taito Ivasa. Okay, UFC 306. This is one of the weaker pay-per-views. We've got Grasso versus Shevchenko 3. This is for the Ultimate Fighter Series 32 finale. Also, co-main event, we've got Raquel Pennington versus Kayla Harrison, and then featured fight of the night, Brian Ortega versus Movsar Evloev. So this is the event in the Sphere, and I think this is a likely main event for it, to be honest. I think they're doing it on Mexican Independence Day, so it makes a lot of sense to have 2. Well, I don't know if Pennington counts as a Mexican champion because she's half American, half Mexican, I believe, but she can still be on the card. But yeah, I think this would be a good event. This is obviously September time. In terms of who wins, we'll say Grasso wins because I think I can't remember. I think she should have won on the last one. I don't remember who got robbed, but someone got robbed. I know someone got robbed. And then co-main event, Kayla Harrison. I don't like Raquel Pennington, she's boring. Featured fight of the night will go, I like Brian Ortega because that was a pretty cold walkout a while ago. Also on the card we've got Yair Rodriguez versus Giga Chikadze. I want to see, you know what, I'll take Chikadze. I think he's I think that Yair Rodriguez has passed his prime a bit, and so I think Chikadze would be a good, you know, it's good to get a newer sort of life in, if that makes sense. Also, you know what, why don't we chuck this on the card? If Anthony Hernandez loses to Roman Dolidze, let's chuck on Anthony Hernandez versus Bo Nickel, because I think that would be a good step up in competition for Bo. Anthony hasn't had many fights. I think he's like 12-2 or something, so he'd be 12-3 by the time of this fight. I think this would be a good fight, and a good fight for Bo to get into the top 15. Okay, right, UFC 307. We've got Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev as the main event. Co-main event, Alexandra Pantoja versus Mohamed Makayev. Featured fight of the night, Charles Oliveira versus Mateus Gamrot. For these next few events, I've not got any other fights. I've just got the 3 that you'll see on screen. But yeah, I think this will be a really good card. I think they should do this event in Salt Lake City. Now, the reason I say that is when Alex Pereira fought Jan Blachowicz in Salt Lake City, Jan gassed out and wasn't able to wrestle Alex. And I think the UFC would rather have Alex Pereira as champion than Magomed Ankalaev. So if he's going to have to fight a tough wrestler, why don't they put it in a place where wrestlers struggle, like Salt Lake City, to give Alex the best chances? But yeah, so have this in Salt Lake City. I think it would be good because, you know, I mean, really, if you look at it, Alexandra Pantoja, I'm just going to say Pantoja, and Oliveira are all Brazilian. So really, this could have been a really good Brazilian 301 card. But obviously, with Alex on there, on his 300, and same with Charles, that didn't really work. But yeah, anyway, so I'll go with some predictions. I'm going to say I want Alex to win. Let's say Alex knocks him out in the first round, because I think he needs to have a quick turnaround for an event coming up soon, which I'll get to at the end of the video. Then we've got Pantoja and Makayev. You know what? I don't really mind who wins this one, because Pantoja is... he's sort of growing on me a bit. I think I started to like him in the Mexican fight night where he was in the crowd and he put 5-0 up to show that he'd beaten Moreno 3 times and beaten Royval twice. So he was 5-0 against both guys main events, and I think that was quite cool. But equally, Mohamed Makayev is British just like me, so I sort of have to support him in a way. But yeah, okay, and then Oliveira and Gamrot, I think everyone wants Oliveira to win. Okay, UFC 308, we've got Islam Makhachev versus Arman Tsarukyan, Zhang Weili versus Tatiana Suarez, and Justin Gaethje versus Beneil Dariush. Okay, I'll go through this quite quickly. Obviously, no other fights on this card. It's a bit too far away to think about other fights. But I'm just going to say Makhachev knocks out Arman Tsarukyan. Zhang Weili, I'm going to say doctor stoppage against Tatiana Suarez, because I reckon Tatiana's big old teeth get knocked out. And then Justin Gaethje versus Beneil Dariush. We'll say Justin Gaethje. Okay, right. This is one that I'll have to explain a bit because it does seem a bit unrealistic, but hear me out. UFC 309, Ilia Topuria versus Max Holloway. Co-main event, Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili. Featured fight of the night, Tony Ferguson versus Joel Alvarez. Now, the reason I say this sounds a bit unrealistic is because Topuria versus Holloway and O'Malley versus Dvalishvili are both huge fights, so why would you put them on the same card? Because then you're sort of just like limiting the amount of pay-per-views you could sell on two different cards. But I think that considering how stacked this year could be, and considering how little Spanish fighters the UFC has, if they are to go to Spain, I feel like they're going to need a really strong event, and I don't think that they have enough Spanish fighters to do something like that. So I think that's why if you put Topuria versus Holloway on the same card as O'Malley versus Dvalishvili, then, I mean, A, it builds up the rivalry between Topuria and O'Malley. It also, obviously, Topuria and Merab are both Georgian, so they've got a bit of a connection. So I'm assuming the Spanish crowd would be booing for Sean O'Malley. And then you've also got the possible setup between, if O'Malley did want to move up, then yeah, I think that this would be a good event. The reason I've done Ferguson versus Alvarez as the featured fight of the night is because they really don't have many Spanish fighters, so just a good Spanish lightweight would be a good option. But yeah, okay, right, final event, UFC 310, main event, Tom Aspinall versus Alex Pereira. Now, this does sound a bit unrealistic, but I think Alex can do it, and I think he's shown that he has enough power, and he's shown that he can get up to heavyweight. So me personally, I think that he can do it. I don't know who I want to win because I like both guys, and I think that as a British guy, I like having a British heavyweight champion, but equally having a triple champion is like, it's just sick to see. So I think, me personally, I'd pick Alex, but I think take Alex on a split decision, so it's a really close one, and then they can rematch and then whatever. But I just think Alex needs to win the belt for this one. Okay, co-main event, we've gone for Yuri Prochazka versus Jan Blachowicz, and we'll do this one for the light heavyweight interim title while Alex is moving up, and then obviously the winner can rematch Alex when he moves back down. I'll personally choose Jan because I think there's more of an argument for Jan to have won the first fight, because you could say, oh, he got robbed against Alex, whereas Yuri, I guess you could say it was an early stoppage, but even then he did sort of say himself, oh, I got knocked out. And then featured fight of the night is Ian Gary versus Michael Venom Page. This would be a number one contendership fight. So I mean, in the next year, I'm only doing up to the end of 2024, but in 2025 we'd probably see Leon versus Shavkat, or Leon versus the winner of Shavkat and Jack Della Maddalena. And so I think that the winner of Gary versus Page would then obviously fight for the title at the end of the year. But yeah, I honestly think this would be quite a good year. I feel like fight of the year, I don't know, but it might go to Max and Justin. There's definitely knockout of the year. Like, I don't think anything's stopping that this year. So yeah, okay, right. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Peace, love and guidance. I'm out.